Good evening. This week's autism news is coming to you a little bit later than it usually does. And I'm going to start this week's news off with a warning that there are definitely some very sad and disheartening stories this week. But I'm going to start with a story that I'm seeing everywhere from both mainstream and autism sources, and that is the blue pumpkins. Now, a lot of people seem to love the blue pumpkins. So when I saw them, I knew that we weren't going to be doing the blue pumpkins, but I really didn't give it much thought. I just sort of thought of it as, oh, it's another thing, there's a lot of things, okay. But then I started to see a lot more about it in my news feed, and it gave me pause and really caused me to take a second look about it. And that was that I follow a lot of adult autistic bloggers and vloggers, and the overwhelming reaction from them was absolutely not. That this was something that singled kids out even more, that it wasn't the same as the teal pumpkin that keeps kids with allergies safe, and that houses do to let kids know that it is a house that has things that are safe for them, that is totally different, but that this actually singles kids out so that people know that these kids are autistic. Some of the bloggers were suggesting to do something more discreet, like a card or a badge, but really the overwhelming message was that people just need to be kind to trick-or-treaters on Halloween and be aware that some people can't say trick-or-treat, that people have different abilities, to treat everyone who comes to your door with respect, whether they're wearing a costume, pajamas, a cardboard box, or even just regular clothes or a jacket. Because you don't know if that kid who isn't wearing a costume just couldn't handle the sensory feelings of that costume, or if that adult is an adult who has a disability, who loves Halloween, who looks forward to that night all year long. I know it sounds sappy, but if we could just be kind to each other, especially on a night that's just supposed to be fun like that, it's just a piece of candy, and you're probably not going to get too many people outside the norm, but please be kind to those who are. On a personal level, I do kind of wonder about the news story. We've lived in 3 different states. We have trick-or-treated a lot because we go to a lot of different events. We also go trick-or-treating from door to door. And Maggie has only in the last couple of years been able to say trick-or-treat. Now she does enthusiastically. Tessie can't say trick-or-treat. Sadie wasn't very verbal until she was a lot older. So we had a lot of years where we had kids who weren't verbal enough to say trick-or-treat. And we've never, in all of our years, had anyone say anything to us that was rude or question it at all. I was nervous for a lot of years because I heard horror stories on Facebook. I was like ready to print out little cards to hand out just in case, but I never actually got around to it. We never had a problem anywhere that we lived. Everyone always just talked about how cute they were, and no one questioned why they couldn't say trick or treat. For any parent who's nervous out there, that has been our experience over quite a few years of trick-or-treating with kids who couldn't say trick-or-treat or thank you. We always just said it for them and said thank you for them, and people got it. Moving on, I am going to start with the one piece of lighthearted news I have before I move on to the other news. In Pearland, Texas, a mom and entrepreneur who runs the AR Workshop is running workshop craft sessions for kids who are on the spectrum. The sensory crafting sessions look like they're a lot of fun, and it is seriously something that I hope catches on. A federal fraud trial has begun for a man who is accused of murdering his 2 autistic sons when he drove them off a pier in Los Angeles along with his ex-wife and into the Pacific Ocean. His sons, who were 13 and 8, drowned, but his wife was able to escape. The man had taken out $6 million in insurance coverage on his sons and ex-wife, and that is why he is in trouble not only for murder, an attempted murder, but also for fraud. He will also be tried in a separate trial in Superior Court for the murder of his sons, but a date for those proceedings has not yet been set. The next story out of Cypress, Texas, hit close to home for us, and I keep looking for an update and I cannot find one. So it looks like the story has not been updated yet. An 8-year-old autistic girl is in critical condition after she wandered out of her home in the middle of the night and was hit by a passing vehicle. The incident happened at around 2:50 a.m. The child's mother had noticed and she had reported that her daughter was missing. The girl had wandered out into the street after she got out of the house where she was hit by a car. The woman driving the car stopped and immediately called 911. As the mother of a child who wanders, who is nearly the same age as this little girl, this one strikes close to home, and I hope we get a good update soon. There was a second wandering incident in Harris County in Texas, according to the Harris County Sheriff. This story ended in tragedy when a 4-year-old child who was taking classes fell into a pond at a Buddhist temple. The little girl had wandered off and her mother and sister started searching for her when they found her socks on the edge of the pond. The pond was 5 to 7 feet deep. It took first responders several minutes to find her upon arriving, and they estimated that she had been in the water about 15 minutes once they found her. She was in critical condition and was rushed to the hospital but did not survive. In Monroe, Louisiana, a special education teacher has been arrested for using corporal punishment on 2 autistic students. A school employee told the school's principal that she saw the teacher hit a 4-year-old with a ruler on the thigh, and that she locked another 4-year-old in a bathroom and left them there for half an hour while the child screamed and cried. The Monroe Police Department was contacted by the school and the teacher was placed on leave pending an investigation. According to the city's handbook, teachers do have the right to use corporal punishment on students. However, they are only allowed to use a paddle on the child's buttocks, only as a last resort in the presence of another school employee. However, the school handbook does say that students with exceptionalities are exempt from corporal punishment, and this does include students who are autistic. So they are not allowed to be... Sorry, this whole thing's crazy. Hit at school. My gosh. Today's news was hard. I know today's news was hard to get to, and I really like finding positive stories, and it felt like this week there were not that many positive stories. I went through like 6 small paged lines of news stories searching for positive stories. But I also think that it's important to pay attention to the problems within the community that need to be solved. Problems like wandering and problems like the abuses that do still take place that seem to pop up on a weekly basis, and that is why I talk about them. I don't talk about wandering very often during the news programs because I have a really hard time talking about it because it is a deeply personal issue to me. But I think it's really important that everyone is aware that wandering is something that happens, because if someone sees a little kid wandering and realizes that something is off and is able to stop it, you could save a life. Heck, it could be my kid's life. So that is it for today. If you like this video, we would love it if you'd give it a thumbs up, and if you're interested in all things autism, we'd love it if you'd hit subscribe. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.